What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of WML, and today I'm coming at you with a review of Oppenheimer, so let's get into it. Oppenheimer is a biographical drama that focuses on the life of Robert Oppenheimer, the creator of the atomic bomb. This is a very dense movie that focuses on different areas of Oppenheimer's life, from his direction of the Manhattan Project, his influence over nuclear policy after the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as well as his interrogation of his alleged communist politics by the US government. I ended up seeing this in theaters twice because on my first viewing, I was very surprised to see what Christopher Nolan chose to focus on in the movie's very densely packed 3-hour runtime. Nolan had the opportunity to really focus on whatever he wanted, and I didn't really know what to make of the fact that so much attention is given to the granting and subsequent revoking of Oppenheimer's security clearance. Movies like this can be a lot to take in because they can tell us so much, not just about a person's life or a certain period of history, but also what's important to the director and also what's important to sort of us in our contemporary cultural moment. And I'm really glad that I ended up seeing this again because Oppenheimer is such an engrossing and fascinating movie. Yes, there is a lot of attention given to Oppenheimer's security clearance, but I think that's because this movie is fascinated with, among many other things, bureaucracy and sort of the contrast between the individual Oppenheimer and this sort of broader bureaucratic military system that he was operating within. I also feel like framing so much of the movie around Oppenheimer having to explain himself to and be interrogated by the US government sort of provides an opportunity for us to really see him grapple with his legacy and his involvement with the bomb and the influence that he tried to exert over nuclear policy after the bomb was created. The events leading up to the hearings themselves, and Louis Strauss's confirmation hearings for Secretary of Commerce are all stories that are told simultaneously pretty much throughout the movie's entire runtime. And the fact that Christopher Nolan is able to weave all of these narratives together in a way that never really feels that confusing or disjointed is just a huge feat of editing and structure in and of itself. I really like Nolan's observation that this is a film that can be split into 3 different parts. The first part being a traditional biopic, the second part being a kind of heist movie where you see this ragtag group of people come together to pull off this impossible feat, and then the third part being a courtroom drama. Seeing Oppenheimer and company come together to overcome this really daunting logistical and bureaucratic challenge is very engrossing. Seeing that same group of people actually try to build the bomb and debate different, combustion methods and scientific principles is also very engrossing. Seeing Oppenheimer have to fight for his career in front of this corrupt kangaroo court while justifying to them his most consequential life decisions, while also justifying those same decisions to himself, is very engrossing. Again, it's a huge testament to this movie's editing and structure that Nolan is able to weave all of these different, not just narratives, but styles and genres and themes together in a way that's so cohesive. What are we doing? I will say that Nolan's editing style can be a bit overbearing, which is something that I've come to realize about all of his movies in general. and things can feel a little bit rushed at times because of that. I also think that the way that the movie tries to sort of explore Oppenheimer's grief over creating the world's most destructive weapon doesn't really have as much sort of existential weight as it's clearly going for, and probably would have been handled better in the hands of somebody like Paul Schrader or Martin Scorsese. Still, I did really appreciate seeing Nolan try to come to terms with the legacy of the atomic bomb, and did find it very striking when Oppenheimer gave his victory speech to a gymnasium full of bloodthirsty American ghouls. Finally, there are the performances, and just like everything else, the cast here is very dense. Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, Robert Downey Jr., Kenneth Branagh, Ben Safdie, and Jason Clarke are just a few of the names that pop up here, but obviously everything revolves around Cillian Murphy as Oppenheimer, and he absolutely kills it. I mean, he's just very believable as this very mild-mannered scientist who finds himself on the precipice of what seems like the most important invention in human history, and has to deal with the fact that it's maybe the most catastrophic invention in human history. And he's constantly caught between this sort of very scientific pragmatism, but also a real sort of, genuine sense of moral concern. And it's fascinating seeing him grapple with it, because sometimes his views are contradictory, and that's because he's a normal person. Some other highlights include a very brief but menacing performance from Casey Affleck, and a very uncharacteristically gruff and bullish Matt Damon as a military general. Overall, Oppenheimer is an incredibly ambitious and engrossing movie that does a remarkably good job of handling its very thematically dense material. I've seen a few people remark about how much they enjoyed watching it, and how entertained they were even when they weren't able to follow its very dialogue-heavy screenplay, which I just think is a huge testament to its power. Oppenheimer gets an enthusiastic 4 out of 5 stars. And that's it. That is my review of Oppenheimer. Let me know what you think about it. Like, subscribe, but most importantly, comment. Let me know what you think of the movie. Is it this year's best? Is it Nolan's masterpiece? How does it stack up to The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, even, hey, where are my Tenet stands? Yeah, so just let me know what you think about it, and until then, I will see you in the next video. Take care.